How's it going? Doing a bit of a clip on cuttings today. Doing these mainly as gifts to give away later on in the year, so I thought I'd get a wriggle on now at the start of spring and see how they go. So I'm going to be taking cuttings from Pepinos, which is a fruiting plant. The tools I'm going to be using, there's two main ones, secateurs for taking the branches off, and then this is basically, I don't have a grafting knife or a garden knife, this is just a Stanley knife style blade, just in my little knife here, and that's been cleaned because these guys are actually oiled when they're shipped, so I've washed that with some soap and made sure all the oil's off, and both of them had a wipe over with an alcohol based sterilising solution. So, now all I've got to do is, actually there's one other thing. A lot of people use hormone gels, rooting gels and powders. I've decided not to do that. I'm going to use honey. This is just a specimen jar. This is just bush honey, unprocessed, raw, natural. So I'm going to be dipping the ends of the cuttings in this. This has enzymes and amino acids, so hopefully it'll give the little cuttings a little kickstart to get the roots going and keep them nice and healthy. A bit of food there as well for them in the carbohydrates. Rightio, so this is the Pepino plant, and what we're looking for is not branches like this that actually have flowers or fruit on it. New little branches that are coming through, like these ones just down in here. So I'm going to try and take them off as low as I can, and I'll probably try and get about a dozen or so. So if my little helper will pass me my snips and stand by to take the cuttings, I'll just zoom in and show you exactly what I mean. Just taking this one here off right down here at the base, so right down where it joins onto the actual plant itself, and that will be the first cut I make, and then when I go and stick it into the soil mix, I'll actually make a fresh cut. So it's got some nice fresh clean wood with a nice sharp knife. Give it to my assistant. So I'm just going to go around now and take a whole heap of little cuttings, and then we'll move back over to the tray. So we have 12 cuttings here. We'll just go over and deal with these guys. So we've got all our cuttings, and what I'm going to do now is knock off the largest leaves and just leave the top little crown, there's 3 there, and just leave them on. The reason I'm doing that is it will reduce the amount of nutrients needed to keep this little cutting alive, so it just gives the cutting a bit better chance to survive. Another thing I'll be doing is just making a diagonal cut across the base and then dipping that in honey, and then it'll go straight into the little pots. And now just a little diagonal cut across the base, and I'm going to dip that in some honey. Right, so now all I'm going to do is make a little bit of a hole in the potting mix with a stick, put the cutting in, and then just firm up around it. And that's pretty much all it. That's just going to go off into the tray now. Rightio, so there we go. I actually went back and got another 4, and we've got 16. So hopefully there'll be enough for a couple each as gifts, and we'll be able to keep at least 1 or 2 for ourselves. So we'll just put these guys to one side and we'll see how we go. I'm also going to try taking some of these pepinos and striking them in water. So there's the cuttings. I've taken off the majority of the leaves. 2 have still got little branch buds. I'm just going to leave them on, and left some leaves at the top here. So it's as easy, I think someone's laid an egg. It's as easy as just popping them straight into this water here, and we'll come back and check every few days, and hopefully we should have some roots down the bottom starting to appear. These are the cuttings, and we have 3 of the 4 have got little roots on them, so the water actually needs to be topped up a bit. So I'm most impressed with that. Over here we have the pepinos in a jar. These are the ones that we've struck just using water and them in the jar. It's looking a bit murky in there because I put some sea salt in. So what I'm going to do with these guys, they're looking rather good. Actually got one that's flowering, Some of the leaves have fallen off, but the leaves that remain are looking healthy, and there's actually been a little bit of new growth on 3 of them that I've seen, and the flowers on the 4th. So with these guys here now, I'm just going to pull them out and pot them up in these pots over here. So I've got a bit of a mix made up. The pepino cuttings in the jar are going to be planted out into this mix here. It's a mix of a commercial compost that I purchased as well as a potting mix. We've got some cocoa peat or coconut coir in there, and our worm cast as well. There's a pumpkin seed at the front there. So hopefully this will be nice and rich, and lots of organic matter in there for them to give them a nice kick start. So I'm just going to start by adding a bit of this into every container. Now all I'm simply going to do is just pull out the individual, which one wants to come first? Maybe this one does. Pull these guys out and then slowly backfill in very gently around them. These guys will stay in here until they put on a fair bit of growth, and then I'll transplant them out either into the garden bed if we're going to keep them, or into larger pots as gifts for friends. So how I like to water my seedlings is pretty much well the same as we garden. I like to wick. I like to place the seedlings, or in this case the cuttings, into a tray of water and let the water just come up through the holes in the bottom. I figure this is just a very gentle way to do it, especially with seeds, freshly planted seeds. So what I will do though is I will give them a bit of a fresh water here with this now, just through the top so it stays in the soil. So a few nice nutrients there for the plants. Sea salt is an emulsion made from seaweed, and it has a lot of trace elements in it, so great for little seedlings kicking off. Well, it's the 19th of October, so I figure we might as well end this little clip here. It's been a fair few weeks since it first started, and as you can see, these pepinos are more than happy in their new environment. Heaps of new growth on, little branches coming out. They're doing really, really well. In here, not so lucky with the rosemary and the lavender. I think we're probably going to end up with maybe 3 lavender out of this and maybe 2 rosemary. So I'm not too sure what happened there, whether the soil was too damp, the mix was too damp, I just don't know. They were all looking happy, and I brought them down here, which is just under the aquaponics here, just to harden off in the sun a bit more, and maybe I did it too early. Rightio, so out of the pepinos here, I think we have lost for sure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we've lost 8. This guy is still a bit up in the air, but as a success rate it's over 50%, so I'm more than happy. We have left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and a tomato, 8, 9, 10, and maybe 11. So that's a pretty good success rate as far as I'm concerned. I do think though sprouting them in water is a lot better. That's 100% success rate, but then again it was only 4. So next time I will be doing them in water. I think it just happened a lot quicker, and the plants had roots the whole time. So that's pretty much all it for the cuttings clip, I suppose. It was a pretty interesting experiment. I didn't really know how it was going to go from the outset. A bit disappointing about the lavender and the rosemary, but you get that. I still have the plants and I can take more cuttings, and I'll experiment in different ways and see how they go. If you have any comments, questions, or more importantly suggestions on how I could have done this better, drop them in the comment section below and I'll get back to you. So I suppose that's pretty much all it. Hope you enjoyed the clip and you might have learned something. I know I have. So have a great one and take it easy. Catch ya. With these pepinos, we started out with, I forget how many. How many? You're a pepino. You're a pepino. You're a pepino. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.